going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. You know who it is by now,
Jimothy.
So ladies and gents, we are back with another deck profile, and you know what it is, Vanquish. So now this is a deck that I've been playing for a while, ladies and gents, and I've been just getting slapped about at locals like it was like going out of fashion, but I'm slowly getting close to a build that I kind of like, and this build isn't finalized, but I did manage to go XO in my most recent trip to locals, so it is almost there, but it's still, I feel like it still has a few tweaks in it. So definitely let me know in the comment section below, ladies and gents, about what you think I should include. But anyway, without wasting any more time, let's get straight into the list. Starting us off, obviously we've got the triple razor, and this is the heart and soul of the deck. You need to find this guy just to be able to kind of like facilitate your plays. Yeah, say no more. Triple Dr. Madlove, I'm not too sure whether or not I'm going to continue to play 3, but she does come up from time to time, especially when you're looking at some of the stuff in your extra deck. If you want to make any of the rank 4s, for example, she does help out, especially with some of the other cards that I've got in here. I also played Triple Borga. A couple of times I bricked on this, but it is a small goal target for your Raisin, especially when I go through some of the other cards, so it definitely does help. You do like to see this in your opening hand alongside another like Vanquish Soul normal summonable monster, just because you can train it to dodge Imperm or like Veiler or something like that. I've also played the double Pantera. Now this was actually a mistake, ladies and gents, because I had the second Pantera in here because of I was just using it as a placeholder for Stake Your Soul, so I wanted to just keep the monster numbers up high. Stake Your Soul arrived, I think it arrived like earlier on this week, maybe like Monday or Tuesday. I put it in the deck and then I forgot to take it out, but it did actually help out a lot, especially with the small world bridge. And especially being able to play around, because if you normal summon gets stuck in this deck, ladies and gents, you're in a bit of a pickle. So I understand why they've got like Pluton HG as well as Pantera in the deck, just to be able to kind of like mitigate your normal summon being stuck, because if they stop your Raisin and they remove it from field, you are in a struggling position, especially if you've got just complete non-engine in hand. It's hard to kind of like extend through play, so I'm kind of glad that I left it in. I probably potentially would take it out because I want to get the deck down to 40. I believe it's at like 46 or something like that, but it actually served dividends, especially with a higher deck count. I didn't actually brick on it. I didn't see too many of them in my hand at one time, and I used a lot of them as a small world bridge, so definitely paid dividends playing the 2, but I probably would take one out. Also played 2 Caesar. This is pretty standard. Boss monster of the deck, puts a whole lot of damage on board. And in combination with the Borga draw, the Borga burn, I use the burn effect quite a lot, to be honest, just because now I'm playing Prosperity. I found myself not being able to draw off Borga, so I was like, you know what, seeing as I can't draw, I might as well just like burn them for 15, might as well, just, nothing else is happening. And it actually pays dividends, especially any deck that like pays life points, for example. It does definitely helps. And I also played the 1 Pluton HG. I do like this card, and I think I'll continue to play even when the new support comes out, just because of its utility going first or second. If you see this going second, you can actually start your plays on your opponent's turn, which is absolutely crazy, depending on what you've got in your hand, obviously. If you've got Borga or Caesar in hand, you can special summon this and then proceed to like do your like Borga effect, Caesar effect, all that kind of stuff. So definitely a very interesting card that I will continue to play, to be honest. Next up for the non-engine, ladies and gents, and yes, we are playing Triple Dimension Shifter. If this gets touched on a ban list in any shape or form, ladies and gents, I'm going to take it out of the deck and just reduce my deck count. It does stop your opponent's turn. It is that powerful. I played it against Labyrinth when I won my most recent locals, and it kind of stunned him out of his turn. He wasn't able to use any of his Labyrinth IKEA furniture effects. And it just meant that he would, in a grind game, basically, a lot of his graveyard resources would just be null and void, just because Shifter's a card, isn't it? And yeah, if your deck can play on the Shifter, play Shifter. It doesn't play optimally, because obviously Wrath of the Vanquisher benefits like adding back stuff from graveyard, but you can play under it a little bit, whereas some decks just can't play on the Shifter. So yeah, that's what I've got it in there for, ladies and gents. Triple Ash Blossom, it's a fire, it synergizes with the deck, and it's Ash, what more needs to be said. Also ran the double ghost bow. This comes up more than I actually realized, not necessarily as a reveal, but just as a hand trap. There's a lot of decks in the meta that like to play with the graveyard, and ghost bow obviously just says no to them. Especially like stuff like Unchained, for example, which is just rising in popularity. If you unchain the Yama in Grave, it's a nice feeling, ladies and gents. Very nice feeling. I also played double Kirikara and the one Kaiju. I potentially would drop one to the side, but I actually liked it in two, mainly because I've got a higher deck count and it gives me a few options. I mean, going first, it's a bit of a brick, but with this deck and the way that this deck functions, just having it in hand to reveal and also makes your opponent kind of think twice about what plays they're going to do. I actually searched this as a small world target in my most recent locals, and obviously my opponent seen me add it to hand, so it meant that he really had to think about his interactions, and there was a few interactions that I actually forced that meant that I could activate Kirikara Div Incarnate, which again, a nice feeling to be in. So I don't know, I think it's okay at 2. And then obviously Dogaran, I actually used the effect of Dr. Madlove quite a few times to bounce this back to my hand, and then Kaiju another monster. So I played against Evil Eye Gold Pride, which was just crazy. It just does a whole lot of searching and stuff. And I managed to Kaiju one of the Evil Eye monsters that was equipped with Celine, which just effectively removed it off field. Bounced the Kaiju back to my hand and then Evil Eyed something else, so it was really useful. So yeah, I do like the Kaiju in the main for that reason. I also played 2 Fenrir. Like I said, I don't own a third and I refuse to buy a third just because the ban list is coming up. If I had 3, I'd definitely play 3. Fenrir is a crazy card. In simplified game states, it just literally dominates the board, ladies and gents, especially with its effect to banish. Quick tip, if you're playing this deck, if you've got Raisin and Fenrir in hand, summon your Fenrir and do your Raisin plays first, just because you don't want to play into draw just searching another Fenrir. You could play the Rise Heart, but because I've got so many fire targets in the deck already, I felt like I didn't really need another fire target. Yes, it is nice to be able to search it, but I just felt like there's other cards that can get me to like fire attribute monsters, so I decided not to play the Rise Heart. I also played the double Magnamo and the one Bestial Jerusalem, again just for removal, putting some bodies on board and being able to potentially force an OTK, which this deck doesn't necessarily do, but it can kind of like OTK you over 2 turns, especially if they've got Borger on field and you can burn. So just having another 2500 attack just on the field just kind of like puts you in that realm of just being able to one-shot your opponent. And that's it for the monsters, ladies and gents. Pretty heavy monster count, to be honest, but this deck needs it. Onto the spells, we've got triple Stake Your Soul. I was playing 2 for the longest time until my 3rd one turned up. This card is still money, it's crazy. But yeah, Stake Your Soul, just silly card, E-Teddy basically. I also played the one Dust Devil as well as the one Vanquish Soul Continue. I was playing 2 Continue, but I didn't miss the second one, to be honest, especially with how the deck functions at the moment. The second Continue, it can be useful depending on certain situations, certain clutch situations, but I didn't miss it. However, Dust Devil is something that I really would consider playing 2 of, even putting just 1 in the side. The non-targeting Book of Moon is just silly. It's so useful in this deck. It's crazy. So definitely a card I'm considering, but at the moment it's 1-1 and it seems to be working fine, because if you do get control of like the game, you're typically in a position where you're just gonna just out-resource your opponent, especially with Borger drawing on both players' turns. It turns into a bit of a resource game, and like you will win that resource game, providing your opponent can't keep up with the Borger draws. So that is it for the Vanquish Soul spells. Onto the more generic stuff, triple pot of Prosperity. I was testing this deck without Prosperity, but decided to put Prosperity in, and it's definitely helped. Like, if I don't see a starter, Pros for 6, Pros for 3 sometimes, and with the amount of monsters that I've got in deck, I'm either drawing into like a Stake Your Soul, another attribute, Small World for example. So just this card's crazy. Yeah, this needs to get hit on the ban list, ladies and gents. I know I mentioned this on my ban list prediction video, but this card's silly. It needs to go to like 1 basically. So it's a bit sacky because it just provides too many decks with too much consistency. Like, banishing 6 out of your extra deck doesn't even feel like a cost at times, especially with some of the cards that you're getting rid of that you probably would never summon unless it's a very, very niche situation. So yeah, Prosperity is just silly. So yeah. I was also playing the double talents. I like talents. I would potentially play it at 3, but I do not want to brick, along with 1 thrust in the main. This doubles up as just another talent. It can be like just stake your soul. It can be a lot of things. So yeah, I do like the 1 thrust. I do have the other thrust in the side. So potentially going into games 2 and 3 and playing 2 talents and 2 thrusts. So your options are a lot more flexible. And I found that this package allows me to play through a whole load of boards, especially like Kashtira, which Kashtira, funnily enough, has a very, very difficult matchup against Vanquish. So just because they can tag out and onto the field, which means that there's a dodge to targeting effects, which is crazy. So yeah. I also played the double small world because we're trying to find Raisin, but I hate bricking on this card, so I played 2, as well as the 1 reinforcement of the army. And that is it for the spells. For the traps, ladies and gents, only 2 traps in the main, and that is there can be only 1 twice. So yeah, there can be only 1. It's a floodgate. This deck can play. It stuns your opponent. Unchained can't play around this. Labyrinth struggle with this. It turns off their big welcome if they've got a Fiendland field already. So yeah, very, very powerful card. So yeah, worth keeping in mind, ladies and gents. I do tend to side it out a lot going into games 2 or 3, but obviously that's what it's there for. Right, on to the extra deck. We have got triple rocker, the Vanquisher. Yes, I do not necessarily always go into 3. 2 is probably the sweet spot. However, there are times when you do need your 3rd, so I'll just play the 3. Especially with the amount of space that you got in the extra deck, you're not too worried about just kind of like having an extra 1 in there, because you don't really need to squeeze anything else in. Next, I played 1 Link Decoder. This is just for Ibli. If it comes up, it points down as well. So if you've got any nightmare fuel, or you can make a nightmare, it actually allows you to get a draw off it as well. So yeah, 1 Link Decoder. 1 Arthur the Earth Charmer. This is literally just to grab Fenrir's out of people's graveyards. Yeah, it's crazy, but I didn't really make this a lot. This is just prosperity food, to be honest, as well as like Link Decoder, because Ibli's not as prominent as you would think it is, because people are aware of like Rescue Ace playing it, so they're kind of expecting you to have like Lingeribo or Link Decoder in your deck. So yeah. Also played 1 Donna Dagger for hire. This is just a bit of removal. Also gets Ibli off field. Yeah, just if I take anything with like talents as well, I can just link into Donna. So yeah, it helps to kind of like remove stuff off field, as well as its pop effect. Also played the Nightmares. I use Phoenix the most, to be honest. I might actually take Nightmare Unicorn out just because I don't feel like I'm using it as much as the other 2. Cerberus comes up from time to time, and obviously it's got an up arrow, so synergizes with Rocker the Vanquisher. But Unicorn, if you're consolidating all your resources into making a Unicorn, you're probably doing it wrong, and you don't really want to do that, especially when you've got Heavy Borga, Caesar Valius on field. Unicorn's just not as useful, so I might potentially take that out. And then for the last link, we make 1 Underworld Goddess, just for those hard to out towers monsters. You don't really flood the field with a lot of monsters. However, depending on your build, you can do, and depending on the game state, especially if over a couple of turns it's a lot of back and forth, but your monsters are sticking on field, you can go into Underworld Goddess and just like scoop up that problematic monster. Next, for the XYZs, we are running the Plan B or Plan Baguska, which you know all about Baguska, as well as Exciton Knight, just to wipe a board. This is just the level 4 old school Zeus, basically. And then speaking of Zeus, we're running 1 Shakanine, 1 Bobo, and the man himself, Zeus. This is probably the most other played card out of the extra deck, apart from Rock. You don't tend to go into the others unless you're going into a Zeus package, and even then, a lot of the times you're making Zeus on your opponent's monsters because you've talents took a monster, attacked with it, and then went into Zeus, basically. So yeah, very, very interesting deck cards, which is kind of like what you need, to be honest. You could potentially play a second Zeus, but like Kashtira is not really a thing no more, so your extra isn't being obliterated before you get to use it. And very, very quickly, ladies and gents, let's go through my side deck. So I'm playing the other Thrust, a couple Thrust targets. Thrust does make your siding patterns a little bit more interesting because of its prevalence. You got a few options, so you don't necessarily need to max out on like Lightning Storms or Harpy's Feather Duster. But this is obviously for back row, ladies and gents, because yeah, Vanquish Soul don't have a bad matchup in terms of back row, but back row can be very problematic. Triple evenly matched, again, this is just for mass removal. Once you get a control of the board, then you can play at your own tempo, and with the Borga draws or the Borga burn, depending on where you are in a game state, you can just like basically your battle phase isn't really as needed as much because you can just burn for game basically. So triple evenly matched. Triple imperm, I had this in the main for the longest time, but I decided to take it out, and I haven't missed it too much, to be honest. The reason I took it out is because I was seeing it too much in hands and it didn't really serve much of an effective purpose when I was going, when I was just like playing a game basically. It's good to draw as a 6 card, so I tend to slide this in, but like going first, it was okay, but I'd rather see like another monster in hand or an attribute or a Stake Your Soul or something along those lines, so I decided to just side deck it. Also played Triple Draw, which I'm potentially taking out of the side deck. Manadium was the deck that I was very scared of. It is a very powerful deck and it can just stop you from playing the game, but barring that, there's not a lot of decks that Droll is overly effective against, apart from Manadium, and Manadium basically FTKs you, so I put Droll in there for that reason. But at the moment, Droll just potentially could just come out because I feel like there's other cards that are a lot more effective, but yeah, like I said, I'm backwards and forwards about it. And then finishing off, I've got the other there can only be one, the one Eradicate Epidemic Virus, as well as the one Dimensional Barrier, ladies and gents, and that rounds up my side deck. So that is it, ladies and gents. Vanquish Soul. I'm still gonna play this deck. I still feel like there's things that I need to master with it, and I'm gonna continue to do so. And then when I'm kind of like want to breathe it from this deck, I'm going to go ahead and play Gold Pride. But if there's anything that you think that I should include or take out of this deck, for example, definitely get at me in that comment section below, ladies and gents. I'm very active in the comments, and I kind of use you guys to kind of like help me mold and shape my decks, especially with tech ideas and all that kind of stuff. So don't be afraid to message, get at me in the comments, I will reply, and then yeah, we can go from there. But anyway, we find ourselves at the end of another video. As always, if you do like this content, you know what to do by now. Hit that like button, share, subscribe, all of that beautiful good stuff, and I will definitely see you guys on the next video. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.